The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
Carson-Newman gets set to play host to Tusculum in a battle of two third-place teams on Wednesday night at 5:30 from Holt Fieldhouse. With Mike Mincey, I'm Michael Watring for the Eagles Sports Network. And, Coach, you don't want to put too much into the standings. You don't want to put too much into region rankings in January because there's a ton of basketball left. But this is obviously an important basketball game because you're playing at home. When you're talking about where you're at in terms of the league, you've won 5 straight, and you've been able to build up that resume to get into third place, get into that top 4 in the league. Well, from a regional ranking perspective, this would obviously be one of those games that you'd be able to hold your hat on and feel more comfortable when those come out in the next month or so. How important is this game for this team this week?
Well, I think you're right. You don't need to make the game any bigger than it already is. I mean, obviously we know it's big. It's a rivalry game against a really good Tusculum team that's playing well and, would have made the NCAA tournament probably last year if the situation hadn't arisen. And they're certainly poised this year to be in that conversation, especially looking at the regional rankings that we have, even though they're not the real regional rankings. But we only have so many more opportunities left this year to play against teams that are going to eventually be in that top 10 in the region. And obviously that's a big box that you want to check off. So when you're playing against those teams like Tusculum that are ranked in the region and probably going to be ranked in the region, you need to try to do your best to be successful against those opponents. And plus you're at home. You can't, if you have any chance of being in top 4 or let's say win the league, you can't give up home games. And we've already given up one this year to Wingate.
You've beaten Tusculum in 6 straight, 11 of the last 12. The recent history is there, but you've had to earn a couple of them. Last year in this gym, it was a 70-70 game with a quarter of a minute to go, and you were able to make some foul shots down the stretch to be able to win the basketball game. Well, Tusculum's doing a lot of the same stuff this year. They turn their opponents over at a high rate. They're able to score pretty well. They're fairly balanced in that regard. What do you see from the Pioneers?
I mean, they're really good. Obviously, they got, Mia Long, who's one of the top point guards in our league, probably the fastest point guard in our league for sure. Casey Johnson's back. Sydney Wilson's back. They got those veteran-type players that didn't get to play last year. They're back this year. So they did lose a lot, but they're bringing those veteran players back. So it's going to be a real challenge for us. Their style of play is very much like Catawba. We've played Lander, Clayton State, those type teams. So we've gotten to see it before. But if you want to have a chance to win, just like with Catawba, you can't turn the ball over. Now we go to Catawba, turn the ball over, but we're able to hold them to a lower shooting percentage on their home floor. We get the win. But they're a good squad, and they've shot the ball really well here of late against Marseille and Coker. So we've got our hands full when they come in here tomorrow night.
Braylon Wykel has obviously been very poised for your team. She's put together a quality campaign. She's shooting over 50% from the floor, not just this season, but in conference play, coming off an elite game the other day. Well, as you mentioned, she goes against Mia Long. I think that's going to be a fun matchup for people to watch. But what can you say about what Braylon Wykel has done as just a true freshman? I'm sure you expected her to have a nice season, but probably not a season as great as this so far.
Yeah, she's probably, I think it'd be fair to say she's exceeded my expectations this year. It started against USC Aiken, first game of the year. Well, against Tennessee it started, actually, and then we go and play Aiken, and I think she had 23 that game, and it's like, wow, man. I knew she could play, but she can really play. And the thing of it is that she's prepares herself. She's the same all the time. You don't see that up and down out of her. I know she's going to be ready to play. I basically know what I'm going to get out of her every single game, especially from an effort standpoint and a mental standpoint. And then from her shooting perspective, I think we talked about this the other night. Her mechanics are so good that every time she shoots it, I think it's going in. And, she's just, to put it, She's exceeded what I thought she would be able to achieve. I thought she'd have a good year. I knew she had a chance to start, but the way she's playing is quite phenomenal to me.
Coach, appreciate the time. Best of luck Wednesday.
Thank you, Michael.
He's Carson-Newman coach Mike Mincey. I'm Michael Watring, and this is the Eagles Sports Network.